Right, so it is day 58 of my New Year's tree planting resolution thing, and the sun is just dipping down the horizon. It's hard to tell because we've got a lot of cloud at the moment. So let's get on with it. Right, so it turns out my thoughts are pretty disorganized, and when I was reviewing what I'd originally recorded for today's planting, it was mostly gibberish. So I'm going to sort of recap now and hopefully waffle less and get the thoughts I wanted to get across in order for a different day's planting. So going in first today, we've got 3 little lychee trees. So this is going in the same area as the Kapok and will eventually form part of the subcanopy for it. This is on the leeward side of the Kapok. Currently they are a little exposed to wind, but they have got some shelter from some native sickle bush and a Trichilia, which is one of the straight-thorned acacias, and an awful lot of young guavas and ipe, which is one of the South American Handoranthus, maybe Central American, not sure, it'll be up on the screen briefly. So in with that, I'm putting a fairly low Dracaena fragrance for shelter, so I'm keeping the head quite close to the ground, which should keep the sun from being too direct. I'm also putting on what will be the sunny side of it, so we've got the Dracaena on the sunset side, and then on the daytime side of it I'm putting an Aloe neriensis, which should be fairly tolerant to the amount of shade these will get as they mature. And again, it's as with the Aloe cameroni, it's one that's very easy to propagate from stem cuttings, so it'll be quite nice and easy to move it if it eventually becomes shade stressed, although I have not yet managed to shade stress one of these. I'm also putting in 3 little Dracaena reflexes, just because these are quite bright and should mark this out. This area does have a lot of Mexican daisies which will come back up again, and so just in case I don't keep up with keeping that down, so that I always know where not to swing through with a scythe, the Dracaena reflexes should make it nice and visible. And I'm putting in some Kalanchoe fetch and koi for the usual purpose of attracting pollinators and dissuading any pests by being good and toxic. I'm actually putting in 3 of these as sort of walking further into the shade until finally we get to the point where I plant the plant I hadn't actually planned to plant today, which is creating a sort of repeating pattern of planting lychees with this plant. So this is another Artocarpus heterophyllus, probably. This is a seedling from our mature jackfruit tree. So I had just been scything in this area and trying to sort of chase up the sickle bush, because they are a really good nitrogen fixing tree, but they can be a little bit exclusive because they tend to spread out really low. They do tend to create a slight shift in the soil which suppresses germination, but it doesn't seem to affect plants you put in around them. Only seeds don't tend to germinate around them. But while I was doing that, I found a very large lantana bush, and I decided not long before the new year actually that when I pull out a plant I really don't like, if it leaves a hole, I'm going to put a plant I do like in the place. And so this time I thought, well, this is a decent bit of shade, so I'm going to put a nice little jackfruit in here because they do appreciate the shade. So in with that, I'm putting some aloe arborescens, 3 of them, as sort of a circling barrier. It's a physical barrier because this does still have the fleshy basal leaves, which can make it very attractive to our pouched rats. And also the chickens followed me here, so they know I'm doing some planting, so they will probably investigate, and I don't want them digging this up, which they have done with previous jackfruit seedlings, not this year, but in previous years. And then I am going to put in more Dracaena reflexa, a Dracaena fragrans mesangiana, the very sun-sensitive variety, which I keep saying this will be the last one this year. This will be the last one this year, but yeah, there was another one that was long enough, and this is in a very shady spot, so it shouldn't suffer much at all. And then we're putting in what probably will be the last one for at least a month or 2 of the Kalanchoe marmorata, which is the pen wiper plant. And then finally, just a little bit offset from that, I'm also putting in 3 Dracaena reflexer again because they're stark and bright, so it should be easy to spot them. The Song of India variety. I'm also putting in a Pandanus, and I can't remember which Pandanus. I think it's one of the Indonesian ones. This is one that does bear an edible fruit, but it probably won't here. So here the only real value of it, beyond being quite a nice dense ground cover, which is very shade tolerant and should sort of favour the same sort of environments as jackfruit, and may eventually become somewhat tree-like in this environment, but this species tends to stay fairly low and sort of ground hugging. But the growing tips of them can be eaten very much the same as heart of palm, but because this is a sprawling multi-branch species, it doesn't have the same fatal effect that heart of palm usually has on the palms it is harvested from. So yes, so that is it for today. I'm going to keep the video rolling over this bit because you cannot see me right now because I'm sitting in the complete dark by the pond. But tune in tomorrow and I will be hopefully gathering my thoughts just a little bit better. Thanks for watching.